Steve Jobs put it very well, that everything you see around you, was created by people no smarter than you. So if they could create the ecosystem in which you live, you can create the ecosystem in which others will live. The greatest men who give you goosebumps when you talk about them, they were human, they sinned, they fucked up, they lost, they got heartbroken. All of those things have happened to you, but you've been using those as excuses to not become great. Jordan Peterson followed me after I made this one tweet. The spiritually ugly find beauty intolerable. I will give you a book to help understand who you are. Then I'll give you a book to help understand who people are in general. And then maybe, if I'm feeling generous, I'll give you a book to help understand women. Okay? So the first book, a book which will help men understand men.
Solid. What is up, my friends? Welcome to Dostcast. Today's guest is an Englishman from the 16th century. His name is Jash Dholani, old books guy. I'm just kidding. He's from AMD Ahmedabad. I have now doxed your location. Obviously, he shares very cool threads on some of the best thinkers of history and repackages their ideas in cool ways so that you can get slivers of wisdom in no time at all. And he's with me today in my studio, which is newly built. First time in this new studio. He's come all the way from AMD, like I already mentioned. Jash will now say why he's the goat of threads.
Thank you. The goat of threads. That makes me a tailor, I guess. Thanks, Vinamre, for the invite. And it's a real pleasure to speak with you. I'm sure we'll have a great conversation. My name is Jash Dholani. You can find me on Twitter, Old Books Guy. When I started posting threads on Twitter, like something weird started happening. I realized how interested people are in ideas, because usually people think, gossip is all that works. People want to know about people, which is true. But people also want to know about ideas, and I started reading these books and posting about them, and the account started growing. Like Elon Musk is replying to me, and I'm like, what's happening? Like my sister was once like, why are you jumping up and down? And I'm like, the owner of Twitter is responding to me on Twitter. And it was a weird, surreal experience. And my discovery has been that ideas don't have to be boring. They don't have to be mechanical. They don't have to be academic. They can be fun and useful. So, like our conversation is going to.
Stay tuned till the end for some awesome recommendations on how to understand men, how to understand human beings, and how to understand women. Cool. See you in the episode.
See you in the episode.
Actually, I'm reading a book called Already Free by this guy, Bruce Tift, who says we spend all our lives and build our lives around avoiding certain emotions.
Right.
And like think that if you're feeling anxiety, low-level anxiety, there's a problem with you. It is a feeling to be avoided. So you say, I'll be calm, I'll meditate, I'll have all these rituals.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, the idea is that you should be feeling this. It's a normal part of human existence.
Right.
You can't, like a little bit of suffering is what will, like you said, make you feel like you're human. Otherwise, you're just going to ultra-human morning routine your way to hell and boredom.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when people are just hell-bent on living two disciplined lives, right?
Yeah.
When they're like, optimize this, optimize that. There is no fun. Twitter is full of that.
Yeah. Fun, or people who are living our lives which are over-optimized. Yeah, bro. And, I had a tweet once and I said that Winston Churchill woke up at 12 p.m. and he had alcohol for breakfast. Okay, like this guy is having whiskey for breakfast. Would you go to Winston Churchill and tell him, bro, you should optimize your life, bro? This is a world historic figure, right? Yeah.
Won a war, led a country through disaster and turmoil. He had horrible habits. Should Julius Caesar have won some sort of health tracker on his wrist? Should Alexander the Great have counted his calories? Optimization is a dead end because you are mistaking the goal for the process. Figure out a goal, and then it should make you feel intensely driven. And that is where achievement comes from. Ticking some boxes consistently for a week isn't how the greats did it. So, to your earlier point about how people think of anxiety as a problem, people think of depression as a problem. Depression is your friend. Depression is the only thing in the world telling you the truth. That your life sucks. Your psychologist is lying to you. Your school teacher lied to you. Your parents are lying to you. Depression is telling you the truth. That the life you have led, created for yourself, struggled for, isn't worth it. Now you can take the depression on its word, and there are 10 different directions you can then go. You can choose to change your life. You can choose to end it, right? And there is no signal inside depression itself that you should end it. It's probably telling you to change it. And anxiety is information. Anxiety is telling you that there is some fear that you're not looking at straight, because the moment you do that, the anxiety goes away. Then you will have either direct panic or the will to face it head on. So anxiety means it's willful blindness to something you should not be blind to. So again, all information.
Yeah. When people would go to Carl Jung and tell him happy news at his doorstep, he would turn them away.
Uh-huh.
But when they would go to him and say, I'm depressed, he would bring a bottle of wine. It's like, great, now we can talk. Because the idea is that through the fires of depression will come out a different person, will come out someone stronger, will come out someone who understands the spectrum of human emotions, who does not merely live for pleasure and indulgence all the time. On the other hand, though, right, one of the things you mentioned or have often talked about is why Stoicism is overrated, right? As someone who's in the past had struggled taming his emotions, right? It's always very wonderful to read the mental models that people like Ryan Holiday and everyone else who espouses Stoicism espouse. But I don't want to live with so much temperance. I don't want to live with so much, it is my duty to get up every single day and be nice and temperate to people. I just feel like there should be a little bit more romanticization, a little bit more drama to your emotions. So what if there's a cost? At least it makes life worth living. But I wanted to know from you, why do you think that this idea, which is sort of taking people by the grip, especially entrepreneurs, especially people with teams to lead and careers to enrich for others and lives to change, why this is such an attractive idea and why you think it's not as revolutionary as many people think it is?
I think it's an attractive idea because most people don't have any intensity to calm down. Like, it's good if you have it, and then it's a problem that you need to deal with. But isn't the big problem that people don't have an intense pull towards any desire? Isn't the big problem that people would rather watch other people's lives on Netflix than live their own? Stoicism is not the solution to that. The solution to that is actually developing lust for life, for goals, for people. The lust is the solution to life, to this prevalent mood of just tiredness and lethargy. So I feel what Stoicism is doing is worsening that problem. Stoicism tells you that calm down, calm down, calm down. They're already dead from inside. You need to spark them back to life. And Stoicism is all about, as you said, temperance, equanimity. Having that flat line of emotion. Plug a corpse to some hospital equipment, you'll get the perfect flat line in the world. Corpses will give you that balance and equanimity, but we're humans. The lows teach us, anxiety teaches you what you're not looking at. Depression teaches you what you need to change. The lows are rich in information, right? The highs are rich in ecstasy. And I think that's life. And Stoicism, above all, feels artificial. Like, it feels artificial to me. Because life is never that flat. And why would I want to twist and turn life into something that it's not? And I get the problem that Stoicism tries to solve. It's trying to solve the problem of, to use Jordan Peterson's vocabulary, high agreeableness combined with high neuroticism. So high neuroticism, so you're tense about situations and worried and preparing and paranoid. And also highly agreeable, you want to please people. So now you're worried about everything. You're worried about someone who might misunderstand you. You're worried about someone who mistook your intention. And then probably you should be a little stoic. You should probably worry less and bring your line down.
Yeah.
For that category of people, Stoicism works. But I feel for people, who don't have that combo from hell, they're...
Combo from hell. I think those people would be wonderful as empaths or NGO people where there is enough suffering going on.
Yeah.
You actually did the test, the Understand Myself?
And I did.
Yeah, when did you do that?
I did it a few weeks ago.
Okay, a few weeks ago. So it was the second time or your first time?
It was the second time.
So you do know that the results are bots when you do the second time?
Bro, I do it when some girl asks me to do it, honestly.
Or a few other accounts come up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you sort of go from whatever you were in life to becoming this person on Twitter?
That's a good question. I became the old books guy as an accident. Okay, because I was on Twitter, like you, 2020, I'm installing every single social media app that exists to mankind except TikTok. right? Because anti-national apps,
You
I
can
will
be-
never download.
Yeah, you can be racist. It's okay.
I can.
One racism is allowed.
One racism, I'll save it for something better. So I was downloading all these apps. Twitter was one of the apps I downloaded. I was like, I will, because free time, free energy, need some place to direct it, need more information to consume. You know? So I'm looking at content across these different websites, looking at content on Twitter, start getting hooked. The first shift was when I started finding contemporary writers tweeting on Twitter who I started instantly respecting and admiring. And that was rare for me because usually I found people whose thoughts I enjoyed listening to, sometimes in podcasts, but mostly in books. You know, there are, you know, because I feel like the book is what survived. You know, everything stupid died. 200 years later, the book is the one thing which was good enough to survive for 200 years. So that is the first reasoning for having an old book centered account, because you're only dealing with the best. You know, there is no bullshit to swim through. The time vetted these books for me, so it made my job easier. But I'm on Twitter, I'm reading these accounts, and I start getting hooked to the platform. And then I want to create something. And then I'm thinking, what do I select my niche to be? Because you need a niche, you know, you can shout in the void. And I had an account before Old Books Guy, like I had a different handle. My handle was Jash is Right, you know, and it was just a funny way of expressing to people the tone that they could expect once they follow me. But then I kept polishing it.
And why did you decide to be on this platform, say, as opposed to others? Because wordy guys do very well on YouTube and LinkedIn also.
Yeah, maybe the speed attracted me, and I feel like the kind of people I wanted to read were writing on Twitter. You know, the sort of accounts I was a reader to were more on Twitter than they were on YouTube. And there is a way of getting away with this scandalous if you are wordy about it. But I think that's the good thing about Twitter. You know, some of the things that people say there, which are true, but you're not allowed to say them. And these guys were figuring out a way to state these truths, which were scandalous, because truth can be, in a way that doesn't get them banned. And I feel like with YouTube, it's a lot, like the window is a lot tighter. And there's a lot less that you can get away with. So these intellectual tricksters, you know, these guys who were not just telling the truth, but having fun with telling the truth, were on Twitter. So finally, I decided, okay, I need a niche. And I narrowed down to two options, New Books Guy and Old Books Guy. And I was sort of indifferent to both of them because I thought that, you know, whatever works. But the thing with a New Books Guy account is that if the author is new, then he doesn't have an audience himself. So who will retweet me, right? But if the author is old, then he's dead and he doesn't have a Twitter account. So who will retweet me? So I was stuck in this marketing bind. Right? And finally, I thought, you know, old books does sound better because these old books have pre-existing fans.
And they're always going to Google search Nietzsche or someone else.
Right.
But they're not going to search
the new book.
These, you know, like a... Yeah.
And they're going to Google search the books, and they are going to probably find somehow my account via someone who retweeted it. And then they would be attracted to my account because I talked about their favorite book. So the books I talk about, in the beginning, the strategy was, this should be the favorite of a significant chunk of people. If people are lukewarm or kind of so, you know, 2.5 stars on Goodreads about a book, and if no one is giving this book 5 stars, then I won't talk about it because no one is passionate about this book. No one will engage with my material if I talk about it. You understand? So a lot of it, so much of it was just this marketing perspective, which people don't expect, you know, when they ask me this question, because usually they expect maybe a philosophical answer or they expect like a creative answer. But so much of the way I think about it is, you know, very interwoven with will it work, you know, because shouting in the void, you know, isn't for me. So
yeah, of course, at least with Twitter, it allows you to ship your ideas very fast and get instant feedback. So you automatically design your writing for will it work?
Yeah.
How much of it is working? What can I do to make it work better? As opposed to sitting in a silo for a year and writing a book that no one cares about, right? So which is why I think that it's one of the best mediums to quickly become a writer. Like it's the fastest way to become a writer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you go to do the whole track of, journalism, you know, and then you start working at like some bottom level magazine, then you get to Mint or somewhere else, and then you still have to fight all this judging or judgy writers who sort of gatekeep it.
Yeah.
Throw your thoughts in the ether.
Yeah.
Tag the ad accounts. Persist.
Yeah.
One thing blows up and your life changes.
Yeah. Right? Bro, it's like every book which I'm going to next name has been rejected in double digits. Harry Potter, Dune, you know, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That one has been rejected in triple digits. So,
Really?
Yeah. This book sold. It's probably the best-selling philosophy book of all time. There are some other contenders, but it's probably number one. 122 rejections. Right. So the gatekeepers don't really know what's going to work, and the gatekeepers have a sense of maybe what worked. The gatekeepers have their own taste. But who says the gatekeepers have their pulse on what the people want, which is exactly what you need?
They're usually ancient.
They're ancient, and not in a good way. Old is not always gold, but old books guy on the other hand.
No, they're ancient in the sense that they made their bones and they're stopping their bones. It's like you figure out a way to get a credibility timestamp.
Yeah.
Or you figure out a coveted job and then you're like, well, fuck everyone else. Now I know. I'm the expert. I'm the critic.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Which
is why like critics might say 2 stars, bad movie, whatever, and then fuck, like they may make so much money, and India loves these larger than life superstars.
Yeah. I know there is this disconnect between the critic and the audience, you know, which is strange because you would imagine that the book publisher, at least his job is to know what the people want. But you know what? I have a solution to this. Okay, I'm going to solve this problem of terrible publishers rejecting great books, which will go on to become bestsellers. Problem solved after this day. Okay? Every time a bunch of publishers reject your book and it goes on to become a bestseller, you should publish the names of all the publishers who turned it down.
Yeah.
You know, just
so it's a witch hunt for them.
It's a witch hunt. Skin in the game. Harry Potter किसने reject किया? निकालो नाम निकालो. इनको निकालो publishing से.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't go as far, but I will say.
Yeah.
So I posted a tweet recently, and you've self-published, so maybe you'll have something to add to this. I have over 200 poems. Some of them are bad, some of them are fantastic. Big fan of Jack Kerouac, Arthur Rimbaud,
Right.
Morrison. Love poetry, can still rhyme. Love hanging out with rapper friends because they can put to music what I can only put to words.
Right.
So I approached this publisher through a friend and I said, you know, like I have these poems, please read them. Again, I also wrote these poems as time went on. I stopped becoming very navel-gazy and using big words.
Right.
And making these poems sharp, but also massively readable. So they had a lot of shares on Instagram, about 1 million.
Wow.
Cumulatively. Which is a lot for a poem, right?
Of
because
course.
It's like who the fuck reads a poem? Right? And those who write poems are like boring, banal, platitudinal, vanilla BS. She was soft, she was brave, she was like the wind. Banjo kya hai? Right? No substance. Nothing like, like he jacked off and he wondered, is this his life? Like that. You know what I mean? Like there's no skin in the game. There's no like
skin in the game.
punch.
Yeah.
It's just like
do invite me to your Nobel Prize winning in literature ceremony.
I hope it happens, bro. But so I told her like,
boy jacked off and wondered is this life? This is poetry, my friend.
I told this publisher that hey, I have these poems, and she's like, they're great, but they're solid for like a second or a third book. Why don't you have something else? It's like I'm doing something on leisure. It's like but I still have to workshop that idea. It's going to take forever. But I still want to publish these poems because they have insane responses on Instagram. You've self-published.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it? Like
I would, man.
Like,
I would.
But hear me out. But economically, or like from a status signal, credibility standpoint, I think it makes far more sense in India to be, say, an author with a big publishing house so that you have, you make less money, but you're like, I don't know, like kind of like you blow up.
Yeah. The credibility so is there a publisher in India which you particularly respect?
I'm not going to name them.
Right. But are there big time publishers who
several,
you respect?
Yeah,
you respect them. So why do you respect them?
Well, because they have the credibility. They have
the credibility, but do you have internal respect for them?
Internally?
Like, have they published great books which you're a massive fan of and you're like, I like their taste? Have you looked at a publishing catalog and been like, I like their taste?
I haven't looked at publishing catalogs
or just what they're publishing in general.
I think I like authors more than publishers.
Right. So
I don't care what publisher they're with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, then why would you read us?
True. No, true. I mean, there are some marketing aspects to it, which reminds me, completely random. So fucking weird also.
Okay.
I was working at India Art Fair last year. And this dude just had a panel for NFTs.
Okay.
not gonna get into NFTs right now, but
yeah.
the NFT was the microscopic view of a sperm.
Right.
He's having a fucking panel about it, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, this
Yeah.
shit should be aborted, cancelled.
It should be. It should be.
And he was just so pretentiously talking about it, and
Yeah.
everyone else was not even scandalized, just bored. Imagine
Yeah.
you do something like that, at least you could evoke some emotion, right? Because you're doing something that's
Yeah.
borderline like dangerous in terms of like infecting people's minds with an
Yeah.
idea, and it's boring.
Yeah.
It's still boring.
It's boring. I feel like the ultimate argument against degeneracy is that it's boring. Right? It's not bad. It's not morally corrupt. God probably doesn't care about your degeneracy, but it's just boring. Like it's like if I zoom into a landfill, is that art?
No.
Like it's like he's zooming into sperm, and he's trying to be creative in this very destructive way, because he is calling something creative, he's calling something magical when it's not. He did not actually birth a new idea. He did not actually give new voice to an old idea. He just stood on one hand and he's like, I'm the fastest runner on the planet. And it's like, okay, bro. Like he's just doing something absurd. Doing absurd things is very easy, right? Like I could just like take this mic out and throw at you. I'm not doing that. Doesn't make it performance art. That makes me a dick, right? So I can definitely tell you why it's performance art. I'm subverting expectations. It's the unexpected. What is art but the unexpected? You were taken aback. Your perceptual scheme was expanded. I am an artist. It's very easy to do shit. It's very easy to piss in public and say that you're subverting expectations, but you're probably just subverting your dating prospects is all you're subverting.
Yeah, no, I think I've dated a lot of women because they saw me pissing in public.
Piss on the streets.
They think it's, they really like the way I cursive write my name with my piss.
You can do it in cursive?
Yeah, bro, it's,
Shit, man.
it's,
How many 10,000 hours of practice?
Yeah, 10,000 hours,
That's a lot of water drinking and Red Bull drinking.
No, but there is something that I think you have done on Twitter, which is admirable in the sense that...
Oh, we're making it serious again.
Yeah, we're making it serious again.
I can do serious.
Seasons of conversation, seasons of life. Unless you want to talk about piss more, I'm happy to talk about piss.
No, we'll have a pissing contest after the podcast. Yeah.
Which reminds me, now I have to go back to shit again because performance art. This dude called G.G. Allen.
Yeah.
G.G. Allen was a punk rocker, and G.G. Allen would put shit on his body.
See.
Punk rock was a different time. But anyway, this is not as fun a tangent, trust me.
Yeah.
It's just shit and piss and,
Modern art, bro. We need to hashtag return.
Yeah. Which reminds me.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't write this tweet, but I had an idea. We were discussing this before the conversation.
Yeah.
We were talking about the importance of bars. I love bars. Love bars, would like to be born in a bar. But actually, that would ruin my life because then I would be born to, a bar owner and, just like end up hating alcohol. I love alcohol.
Uh-huh.
But the reason I bring up bars is because I roughly know that...
Is that why people hate hospitals? Because they were born in one?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
But I think...
bars.
The time when Ernest Hemingway and Fitzgerald were in Paris... You can still go to parts of Paris and find out the bars they frequented.
Right.
And this was a rich time for the amalgamation of different people's ideas, the exchange of ideas, right? With a salon culture, a cafe culture, or a bar culture in the background. Alcohol, good food, and ambience and music, and licentiousness and lust, and being single, all of that. Sort of contributing to this exchange, right? It's not a dry exchange that's happening.
Not a dry exchange.
On like a stoa of sorts, or like in a court of law. It's like a vibrant social place.
It's emotional,
right? It appeals to all senses,
right?
I think bars provide that.
Yeah.
And I met very interesting people at bars.
Yeah.
And I think what I was getting at in that tweet, I couldn't sort of like get to it fully, so I didn't write it. Is that if we have like a prominent bar culture where the barrier to entry is simply not be boring, that's it.
Yeah.
We're going to see a different kind of intellectual renaissance. Right now, the renaissance we have in India is around indic values.
Right.
because of the new government.
Yeah.
People also realizing why, like they sort of ignored their culture and they need to get back to all things Indian, Indic. They're going back to their old books. It's all great, fantastic.
Yeah. And I feel people see the West failing in pretty obvious, blatant and scary ways. And they're like, this is not the paradise we thought it was. And that's also making people look back to their own heritage. Yeah. But go on.
But yeah, so my idea was, if we actively had lots of bars where the music was just right, the drinks were affordable, and there was a spectrum, right? You could go to different bars.
An expensive corner.
Yeah, but the music shouldn't be loud.
Yeah.
Right?
You need the conversation.
Yeah.
That's the heart.
And you should have bar stools, so you can sit and look in the front, and then speak to someone, and look in the front again and speak to the bartender, right? And as a consequence, you can make these bars your regular watering holes.
Yeah.
As opposed to cafes.
Yeah.
Which is why I think alcohol plays an essential role, because it sort of, I don't recommend it for everyone, but it lowers your inhibitions and you're more ready to battle it out with ideas.
Yeah. You're more ready to battle it out. I like it, man. I think, alcohol, coffee, these are all, psychology transforming substances. They will make you think different. They will make you talk different. And inhibitions is often where good ideas go to die. You're just too scared. 20-second window passed. Now the girl is out of the bar, right? Because you were inhibited because you didn't have that one extra beer like Vinamre told you to. So
no, you could just say hi and make a fool of yourself. But go back home not regretting it.
Not regretting it. That's the manly way to do it. Make a fool of yourself if that is what fate has in store for you. But at least you're not a coward. Better a fool than a coward, right? But it's so important that people have this leisure background to life and this leisure foreground to life. And bars is where the leisure pans out. It's where it's practically embodied. It's where the leisure is acted out, You don't have an agenda. You don't have any specific work that you are responsible for in those 3 hours. So you are a free man. You're truly a free man. You can talk to anyone you want. You can eat anything you want. There is no deadline stalking you. You're not a slave to any schedule. It's that experience of freedom which brings out the good idea from inside you. And the more experiences like that we can give to people who are intellectually gifted and have potential, the better ideas flow, So much of achievement is social. Like so much of ambition is social. Mary Shelley, the woman who wrote Frankenstein, the world's first gothic sci-fi novel, and she invented like 3 genres at the same time. She was 18 years old, and she wrote that in a competition with her husband and their friend, because they were locked in a house and it was raining and snowing too much outside to go out. So it was that seclusion, but that company, which brought out a masterpiece. And that's where creativity happens, man. The combination of seclusion, but also connection. And I've definitely experienced those things at bars. And, these are places where people are free. They're secluded from the traffic. They're secluded from their Zoom meetings, but they're also connecting. And maybe they're inventing new genres while they're at it,
That's crazy, man. I never thought that book is very famous. I've seen the movies and the several renditions of that.
She was
IP.
18, man. I'm 25. Shit.
Damn, man.
I've not invented a single genre, but
no, but you have invented a very accessible way of approaching philosophers. Like the way you casually said, Nietzsche had a crush or Napoleon had a crush. It's it's almost like you've brought the gods down to a level of you can almost touch them.
Yeah.
And I think that's admirable.
Yeah. Did I bring them down to our level, or am I trying to make us go to their level? Yeah.
I don't know, but I love the way when new age slang-ish modern language and terms meet old ideas.
Yeah.
Because it's such a beautiful repackaging that you want to read it.
Yeah.
You want to share it. If you still use the same grandiloquent voice.
Good word.
Right? I was going to say centaurian, but kahin to mauka milta hai apne words ko wo karne ka.
Shashi Tharoor, is that you?
No, but if you use that, grandiloquent style of the book from that era, you lose out modern audiences, right?
You lose out modern audiences, and why read if you are just going to be a pretentious jackass? You know, just, I don't know, zoom into a sperm or something. Like, there are so many ways of being a pretentious jackass.
Yeah.
And I think you should read because you want to get intellectual fuel. You want raw material to build yourself from.
Fodder for the mind.
Fodder for the mind. You know, you want to read because this is your food. You know, you want to eat high quality food and your mind needs that too. Your mind needs nutrition, and that's why I read. And the way I try to approach these people is I can only be interested in them if they were a little bit like me, right? Like, I'm not concerned with what the philosopher on Venus or what the Jupiterian Plato thinks, right? He's living on Jupiter. I don't want to or have to. I want to live on Earth and win on Earth. So I need these peers almost, and I consider them peers, you know, far superior peers in some cases. You know, Napoleon, a far greater man than I am, but in a way, even he got heartbroken. In a way, he struggled with that feeling. Even he was, you know, left on. He was seasoned. You know, the world's most powerful emperor was left on dread. You know, even he wondered if he should keep sending the letters the way guys keep sending the messages.
Even he was a simp.
Even he was a simp. Right? So all his greatness, all his achievement, but he had this thing about him which, you know, men can relate to. And that's what I'm looking for, you know, because I want to tell people that, you know, Steve Jobs put it very well, that everything you see around you, you know, was created by people no smarter than you. So if they could create the ecosystem in which you live, you can create the ecosystem in which others will live. And it's that frees you. I feel like that really frees you, because then what's your excuse? Right? The greatest men who give you goosebumps when you talk about them, they were human, they sinned, they fucked up, they lost, they got heartbroken. All of those things have happened to you, but you've been using those as excuses to not become great. Right? But those are not excuses. That's just the background of life. So the feeling I want to give across to people is all your pain is like mere background. Like, you know, just plug in some earphones or something. Like, you can ignore it. You can choose to make it irrelevant. And Napoleon is your contemporary. You know, Nietzsche is your contemporary, like Plato is your contemporary. And if you genuinely feel like they're not your contemporaries, don't read them, don't touch them. You know, don't listen, don't follow me. You know, because why waste your time? Like, I genuinely believe people should only look to the past for what it can offer them. You know, not for time pass, not
for like posterity's sake. Oh, I must read the old books, because the old books have so much this sanctimonious way of approaching old literature which bores you. You know, for no reason at all, you will start reading like a very boring book that is hailed by others as great, and you find no interest in it. And yet, you read some cheap, dirty novel from the same time, and you feel so many emotions in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like, oh, this dirty, covert style is more mine.
Yeah.
So why should I stop myself from experiencing that? Why should I not pursue this rabbit hole? What's the least that can happen? I'm gonna lose my mind. So what?
Yeah. Do you know why people read books?
Why?
Because they are looking for elite friend group construction.
Crazy.
People read books so that they can intellectually have smarter people in their circle. Why do people listen to podcasts? Right?
It's
elite friend group construction. Right? Why do people go to bars? Elite friend groups construction. It's the motivation is to strengthen your social circle, right? In some way.
It's not like the fodder for the mind is just one part of it. Right? It's really that you want to be in the company of the greats.
You want to be in the company of the greats. You want to absorb their greatness in some way. And it's very selfish. They can't absorb your greatness, if any at all. But it's a very one-way transfer, and that should create some gratitude. You know, you're being given light from a source you cannot hope to illumine. And there is the selflessness to these old books. You know, they only give, they don't take. But ultimately, I just come back to it. If Nietzsche was alive, I would find him and do a podcast with him. But if he's not, so I'll do the second best thing and I'll read him.
Milk.
He would ask for milk?
Yeah. I read that he was a big fan of milk for some reason.
He was a big fan of milk. Well, milk can be good, you know, some more than others.
I love that you talk about these old books, but then you have all these innuendos in your speech the entire time.
Yeah.
Which is fitting and refreshing. Because I thought I would meet
like
someone
some milk tends to be.
No, I thought I would meet someone who's very serious. But there's a lightness in you.
Yeah. You need the lightness, man. Like, why be bogged down by things you artificially spook up or think up? You know, there's a gravity to life which is impossible to ignore, impossible to deny. nothing can be done about that, but there should be playfulness in the way, because that is what we are doing, we are playing with ideas. So let's not pretend otherwise, let's not pretend like we are doing some academic discussion or have any interest in doing one, or that we want to get published in some journal, we are playing with ideas, so let's be playful. Like, that's how I think about it.
That's such a smart way to do it, because when usually people approach even the idea of discussing ideas, they do it with such seriousness.
Yeah.
Which is not the same as intensity.
Yeah.
Intensity comes from a different place.
Yeah.
That it bores the fuck out of you.
Bores the fuck out of you.
Like, I go to parties sometimes and people ask me these deep questions.
Yeah.
That I don't intend to answer.
Yeah.
Because I'm at a party.
Yeah.
I would prefer lightness.
Yeah.
In lightness, there is better philosophy than the heaviness of asking a deep question and hoping for a deep response, because you feel like that is what the pursuit of ideas is. The best ideas are uttered carelessly.
Yeah.
They're
best
uttered,
ideas are uttered carelessly.
like from the unconscious, you don't think about it, but it changes your life.
Exactly, and they're uttered carelessly, which is to say they're uttered without pretension. They are uttered without the desire to impress. Yeah. They're uttered as an organic expression of your being. And every time you are an organic expression of your being, you will help someone, right? Like, the ultimate selfish act to do and the ultimate selfless act to do is the same act. Know yourself. Yeah. And live accordingly. It's selfish because you are centered on yourself, and the world is now going to not get any compromise from you. But it's also selfless, because the only place from which you can help people is when you have a gravity and you are yourself. And the problem with these serious questions at these parties is it's so forced. Right? It's so forced. No one is actually bringing up some real incident which happened to them and connecting that.
No vulnerability. No like jokes about that whole situation.
Right.
Nothing.
No sadness, no jokes. It's not it's not embodied. It's so abstract. Hawa ki baatein. Yeah. And that's always boring. Human beings were meant to be grounded. Much to my chagrin, much to my frustration, would have been nice to have wings. Red Bull.
I read your article on Napoleon. I forget most of the quotes, but you sort of had like 30 or so quotes from him. I'm going to list out all the dumb person things that people know about Napoleon.
Okay.
Right? So we can get those out of the way.
Cool.
And then because you obviously have studied him to whatever extent, maybe you can, help me out with that.
Yeah.
So obviously he's short. That's where Napoleon complex come from.
Above average height for his age.
Okay.
Not necessarily tall.
Gee, you're a Napoleon apologist. I know that now.
Short kings.
Right?
Yeah.
Short kings.
Sometimes I defend people who are not in my group.
I know that. Yeah. You are also doing an elite group.
Defense, yeah.
So,
shortish, yeah.
Known for military prowess and strategy, known for conquering the world, dubious claim, but sort of works. My dad told me a story that he went to a palmist or something like that, and he said, the palmist said you have no line for conquering the world, and he sort of made the line himself. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
It's a myth that I've heard. He was a French general or a commander of some sort.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all a general knowledge GK level 10 would know about Napoleon.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay, so Napoleon became the king. He became the emperor of France, and the emperor was usually crowned by a priest, or he was crowned by the Pope. And there is a famous painting of Napoleon crowning himself. And Napoleon is modernity itself. Napoleon is the individual backing himself. Napoleon is the individual against the masses, against the authority. And he lived like that. And in a way, Napoleon was the 21st century, arrived in the 18th century, and then it has spread out. Napoleon created the bureaucracy that runs all countries now, and he created this civil state. And he was incredibly present in whatever decision or conversation he was having, and he had a track record like no other king in history. Like, he won more battles than Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar, and he had a win ratio of like 91%. Like, that's unheard of. You're not supposed to win fucking 91% of your battles. This guy could like see the future almost, and that's why he knew what the opposition was going to do. Super surprising on the battlefield. People could never make heads or toe of him, and ultimately this guy was a magician. He could create things which were not there before. Like, it was the French Republic and it became the French Empire. And that's also why we look up to the Julius Caesar. It was the Roman Republic and it became the Roman Empire. So they're both magicians. They're creating an empire where none exists. And Napoleon is a great man, and we should all aspire to be like him, except the simp aspect.
That's okay. That's okay. You can.
That's okay.
If you're a military general of that much might, you're allowed to be a simp sometimes.
You're allowed to be a simp. Become a king, and then you can be a simp.
Yeah, you can't have everything in the world, but you can have the world.
You can have the world.
You know. So,
well put.
Great, man. It's always great to speak to a writer because you can all use your slightly rusty muscles to come up with these. So that's Napoleon.
That's Napoleon.
Right. And I also read about Napoleon somewhere that he was one of those guys who operated on paradoxes about preparation and spontaneity.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So prepare all that you can, go crazy, go paranoid, but then on the battlefield be as spontaneous as a child.
Yeah, exactly. That's a beautiful paraphrase. And yeah,
Stole
that's
it from Robert Greene.
Well, he's very steel worthy.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. This guy, truth is going to have the two sides. Truth is going to be paradoxical. And you ask him his favorite novel. Napoleon said, The Sorrows of Young Werther, which was a book which came out when he was a young man in his 20s. And this book is about this emo, sensitive young man who ultimately commits suicide because the girl he likes doesn't like him back.
Yeah.
Napoleon, this bloodthirsty, this guy has lust for conquest. This guy is trying to conquer Russia in winter. This guy, like 6 different empires have to join hands. Ki bhai, we've been fighting for 500 years. Forget our fights for a while and beat this one fucker. That's his strength. And you ask him his favorite novel and he names some rom-com, like some tragedy about a young man committing suicide because his love wasn't mutual. And so it's so weird, you would expect Napoleon to be writing love poetry, but then he was a conqueror, but then he had the soft side, and then he's talking about being spontaneous on the battlefield and being paranoid, before it. And the common link I'm seeing in all of this is use what's useful, right? It doesn't help to be spontaneous before the battle begins. Go on a walk, it won't tell you how many soldiers the enemy is marching on you with. Spontaneity helps you at a certain point. Paranoia helps you at a certain point. Being emotional and sensitive and open helps you at a certain point. One of the tweets I made recently is that Napoleon was wrapping up wars in record time because he wanted to go back to see his wife who was cheating on him. Side note, right? But that is such almost a juvenile reason. But that's what he's writing in his letters to her. I'm just wrapping shit up. I want to see you again, And he's this love-stricken man, but he's also manifesting his...
Josephine, right?
Josephine, the woman.
Josephine Baker.
Josephine, yeah. So, paradoxes, right? He's full of them. But I think what the consistency above the paradox is that use what's useful. Agar tumhara emotional sensitivity tumhe zyada intelligent, clever, schematic, strategic bana raha hai, use it. And if you need to be ruthless, if you need to tune something out, if you need to do something to achieve something, then do that something. So that's the link. We always know what is going to sabotage us. We always know that habit, that idea, that person.
That's our kryptonite.
Kryptonite. Everyone knows their kryptonite, right? Napoleon just had the ability to know it and not let it get the better of him and to use it, ride the tiger. You're riding a tiger already. Use its energy. And that's Napoleon. And I think he can, the spirit of him, it's not about France. It's not about conquering Russia, it's about the spirit of making things happen, of being a magician, of knowing that you can make it happen, of having even stupid reasons to do great things. Like, it doesn't matter why Neil Armstrong went to moon. Do I care if he was lonely as a child and, in the seclusion and peace of the moon, he found his spiritual self? Who cares? He's the first man in history to reach the moon. Yeah. So anything that helped him, no matter how stupid, no matter how juvenile, no matter how dumb, who cares? He won. So
I just noticed it's so weird that of the lives of great men, we only remember their achievements, but the inner lives that they prized are often forgotten.
Yeah.
Like even their diaries and their personal notes are auction items.
Yeah.
But not books for 99 cents that the people can read.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the personal life is where you see the why. In the public life, you see the how, you see the what. But why? Like, why was a man driven to do these things? It's so much trouble. Like, can you imagine, like George Washington, I think the first president of the US, he's writing in his letters, I wouldn't wish the difficulty and the turmoil I am going through on my worst enemy. Just the sheer sleeplessness, the fact that you make a wrong decision and 100 more men die than they had to, the fact that you would have to talk to widows and orphans, and parents left without children, and the fact that the destiny of an entire country rides on your shoulders, and you could make a dumb mistake and fuck it all up for hundreds of thousands of other people, the weight of that, and the fact that on top of it, you couldn't look broken. Because
because you have to show face.
Show face.
Toughness.
If you look broken, what are your soldiers going to look like? And it's that hypocrisy almost of walking out there with a smile, when you've just talked to an orphan. And he carried such divergent responsibilities that his mind was splitting open. But what do we remember today? Oh, the first ever president of United States, right? You remember the achievement, but I think if you are serious about becoming the achiever, then you need to know the emotional life that you'll have to go through. Otherwise, you're just thinking in clouds.
That is so true. I saw a meme of, Breaking Bad, the show.
Yeah.
Hank Schrader, the Walter White's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
He's having a panic attack in an elevator.
Okay.
So the meme is, when you're having a panic attack, and then, so he's basically just almost about to fall over. Then he holds the guardrail in the elevator. So, in the elevator to sort of hold himself up. And he's breathing like that. Then as soon as the elevator door opens, he just breathes again, puts on a smile, like, and then he goes out, and he just sort of puts his hand on the shoulders of both of his subordinates and walks with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're having a panic attack, but then you realize you're a man. So, and I mean, I love memes because they reflect, they show you so much slivers of truth.
Right, they're so dense.
Yeah, in the guise of comedy, but it's almost always like that.
Yeah.
That one of the harsh truths of the world is you may have a fantastic inner life and great sensitivity and great relationships and be a kind man. Sure, kindness will be remembered. But ultimately... Sure. But ultimately, history or legacy will only care about your achievements. Like, I've been a nice person, I think, all my life, to whatever extent. I think in my head, I've been good. I've been honest.
I can imagine so many asterisk symbols next to, I think I've been a nice person.
Right?
Footnote below.
Right? And then I killed a lizard. Then I hit a baby, whatever, right? Like there's also those footnotes.
Well, as long as you didn't kill a baby and hit a lizard, we're good.
But the idea is that it's only when, look at us, for example, in whatever small capacity, we have some success online. That's why we're sitting here.
Yeah.
Right? You could have been my friend.
Yeah.
You could have had a wonderful emotional life, but unless my podcast wasn't about people and their emotions, I would think about bringing you on, but you seem to have a way with words and you make them infectious enough that other people want to listen to you. Right? And so it just goes to show that ultimately, the material world cares about what men make of its materials. They don't care about...
Beautifully put.
Marcus Aurelius' key meditations 100 years before his death.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. The only reason we read his diary is that he was a king.
Yeah.
If you're a peasant and you're a stoic.
And people make a case for one should always also have the diaries of common men. Why?
Why?
Insignificant details.
Insignificant detail. Like, what am I going to learn exactly? Like, aren't we common men? And isn't the point of reading to find out something we don't know, to be someone we are not?
Yeah.
And so, like this, the common man has been championed. And this state of pure being, of not striving, has been championed, and accept yourself and love yourself anyway, and look in the mirror and say I love you to yourself every night before going to bed. And the idea is you need to make peace with who you are, and I think you need a certain level of belief in yourself, but I don't know if you need to love yourself as a man. You know, I think you should reserve that love for the people in your life, and then you should reserve respect for yourself the moment you achieve something. But it's respect should be like, water in Delhi heat. Like, it should evaporate quickly enough, and you should have to earn your respect again.
Very interesting. It's like your self-esteem is a treadmill that you keep running on to stay fit.
I feel like the treadmill moves, but there's something below the treadmill which doesn't move, which sticks to the ground.
Yeah.
I think that's self-esteem. And the movement part is something else. It's a certain restlessness.
Yeah.
Like, you need to believe you're the man.
It's like baseline was bonus. It's like the baseline sort of rises up, but then there's also the bonus which allows this to, I don't know, there's so many mental models
you could use, but the paradox is that you need to be confident, because if you don't believe in yourself, then you'll have an internal shaky life, a shaky internal life. You will not be able to back yourself in bold ways. You will not take risk. Right? So there is no great winning without great risk. So that confidence is necessary, but at the same time, you can't think that you've already achieved it all. You can't think that dimag mein achieve kar liya to real life mein achieve karna zaruri nahi hai. You can't become complacent with your perfect vision. And so it's this paradox where believe in yourself completely, act as if you've already achieved it, but at the same time, you need to keep earning your respect. And it's a hard combination to get, because people are either one or the other. And neither of those actually help you achieve.
How did you become a wordsmith? Like, how did you become good with using words to, change your reality? Not to sound very law of attraction,
sure.
But that was a sentence that came to my mouth.
Okay.
You said you debated as a kid.
Yeah.
I also debated as a kid. I wrote as a kid.
Okay.
Some competitions like yourself.
Yeah.
Always had a knack for them, but what was the first sort of inkling of, this is me, this is my life, I'm good with this?
Yeah, I'm going to be transparent and honest, okay, with the people here. I did not become a writer primarily because I'm creative. I became a writer primarily because I like power. I like to have the power over people's minds. I like to hold attention and then do interesting things with it. I want to experience that. You know how a gymnast derives her sense of power from the feeling that she can twist and turn her body into weird shapes at astonishingly fast speeds. That's where her power lies. The power with a writer, with a performer, is can you hold people's attention? Can you twist and turn that in interesting ways at quick speeds? That's it. I think the emotional motivation for wanting to get out there has to be power, has to be you want attention, you enjoy it. And then on top of that, you layer creativity, you layer practice, you layer a certain willingness to look like a fool. You layer using bold language because, you are fighting for attention with a million other people. And why should anyone listen to you? You need something bold to you. And then there are all these layers on top of it.
What was the first incident, like, sort of in your life with that?
The first incident, I feel like, everyone is looking for power, man. Like, walk into a classroom of, fourth graders. Like, they're competing in their own little way, and there's the hierarchy, man. Like, there's the cool guy, there's the pretty girl.
So you were the writer nerd? Like, what were you?
I think the environment, the way the education system in India is constructed is that talking gets you respect, like talking is just how you increase your status, or sports, right? It's one of those two. And so I just picked talking, and because when you do that, you can talk in the assembly, you're there in the annual function shows, and you can speak out in class. And then talking is how you realize that you can not just get respect, but you can also steal someone else's power. Like, if the teacher makes a mistake and you correct her, who's the teacher now? And so there is this sense in which talking is how it's the alternative to violence. It's the alternative to aggression almost. And it's also a tool to connect. It's also a tool to tell someone you love them. It's a tool to make friends, but it has the dark side. And I want to be honest about the dark side. I'm not going to come here and be like, I learned metaphors because I wanted to write a love poem. True, but I also learned metaphors because I wanted to come up with comebacks and insults, and that's a aggressive reason to want to become good at writing and words.
Wow, yeah, I just have never heard someone articulate that, because people usually do it for, I wanted to increase my intellect, whatever the fuck that means, right? I want to be more articulate, like that's all. They do it in a way, they express it in a way that they wanted to upskill. but you sort of identified the base of it.
I wanted to up power and skill was part
Yeah.
of it. Yeah, but skill was a part
You
of
know,
it.
it's like saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want to upskill." You could do a fucking Udemy course on writing then if you want to upskill, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the sort of writing or wit in speech or,
Yeah.
or speed in speech or the ability to conjure up sentences with your tongue in speech and in writing to change your reality, to get out of situations,
Yeah.
to become a good liar in the first
Yeah.
few years, right? To figure out how do I finagle my way into this debate competition? How do I get to the top? Can I hurt him there so that I can get what I want?
Yeah.
Can I make sure that this is a tense situation? How do I de-escalate it?
Uh-huh.
How do I escalate it without using violence of the
Right.
body?
Right.
It is so interesting
Yeah.
that that when people start telling you, he's very good with words, he's a gift of the gab, and it's almost actually it's more dangerous than violence because we live in a relatively safe, peaceful world.
Yeah.
So physically, even like a very famous writer can be beaten physically,
Yeah.
but even then he's going to use that to his advantage and write a book.
Write a book about it.
Whereas the guy who just bet him is just going to do nothing
Yeah.
because he's a inarticulate hack.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, a couple of points, and I think you put it beautifully how people react to writers and how usually writers themselves are not honest about why they are driven to do what they do. And the way people get good at it, now to the skill element, because there is a skill element to it, is...
No, I meant the motivation was to
Yeah.
upskill.
Upskill, yeah.
Upskill, like writing is a part of my, skills in the world.
CV mein likh dunga.
Yeah, exactly. I meant that.
Yeah. No, you're right, absolutely. And that's a lie. Like, no one has actually uttered the word upskill in their entire life and felt anything inside them. It's one of those dead words, It's
Yeah.
one of those words which you just use because...
It's a job seeker word.
It's a job seeker word. It's an approval seeker word.
We
you're
can't
right.
relate to that, of course.
Huh?
We can't relate to that.
We can't
'cause
relate to that.
We're weird intent careers now.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
but you were saying.
Yeah, I was saying. So, writing, I think so much of it comes down to pressure. Being good with words. So much of it comes down to pressure. You said you did debates, writing competitions. You were writing as a child. You were putting yourself under pressure. You were forcing yourself to come up with words. The guy who's 5 years old and playing cricket, he's forcing himself to come up with good cricket instincts. He wasn't born with it. He probably has a good body type, whatever. But, you have short cricketers, Tendulkar, you have long cricketers, Yuvraj Singh. So, what these people always do, people who achieve great things later in life, is that in their childhood, you can always see the same exact pattern, which is they trained their instinct, right? So the moment you're stepping on that extemporaries you must have done, right? What are extemporaries? Extemporaries is when you get a topic and you get 60 seconds to prepare, which is no time. 60 seconds, gone like that. And then you have to speak on it, right? And extemporaries force you to trust your first idea. Because, my friend, there is no time for the second idea or the third idea. Your time will fly and the bell will ring and it's over for you. So you trust your first idea, you fuck up, fine. Next time you trust your first idea, you become the guy who trusts his first idea. Your first ideas become better and better and better. Then you become a spontaneously good speaker, right?
Let me ask you this. Your initial years were spent unconsciously developing taste. You figured out, okay, I'm good at this, I'm good at words, I'm going to keep doubling down on it. It gave you power. You loved it also, which is why you did it.
Sure.
Not just the power aspect, right?
It's fun, yeah.
But then there are people who all of a sudden in their 20s or at 16 or even at 30, 35, 40 realize that they have no taste, they have no creativity, they're not good with words, right? So for those of us who unconsciously developed it, because we just had a training period, right?
Yeah.
And then we tested these ideas out in the real world and they seem to work to whatever extent. What would you say, and I would say even as far as using your account as a starter for developing taste or being introduced to ideas in small packets that are consumable, what would you say to people who would want to develop taste, whether that is for better speech, better writing, better ideas,
better work, whatever
better
it is
work, right?
you're working at.
Access to this elite friend group construction. Like, how would you say people go about cultivating taste when they, on the inside, feel like they have no taste?
That's a fantastic question. And the question is how to begin when you don't know where to start in a way. You don't have the taste. There is no North Star. There is no, a mermaid on the shore beckoning you. there is nothing which is attracting you and you feel lost and you're not sure where to start, start with the most extreme thing in your life. I don't care what it is. It can be a fear. It can be a disgust reaction to something you have. It can be extreme faith. It can be extreme hate. It can be extreme love. It can be an extreme curiosity about something. It can be an extreme obsession with some person. Don't become a stalker, but dig into that extreme obsession. What is it about them? There is something there which is attracting you. I think things in the world attract people, but people don't pay attention to what's attracting them. That's the sin that they've committed. They have ignored the one thing they were not supposed to ignore. The place where their heart sped up. The place where their back straightened up. The place where there was an unconscious natural smile on their face. Those moments, never ignore them. But if you have ignored them, then you become the type of guy who ignores such important signals from your body. But I believe that God is kind and God has given you something extreme. There would be something out of proportion. There would be something out of order. There
like
would
a
be
big dick.
Like a big dick, and then
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sometimes we speak about our personal lives in podcasts. So
no, I just want to throw you off just for fun. Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. No, so how to begin? Where is the taste? Anything good, the portal to everything good lies through something extreme. That's the axiom I have. So I don't know what's extreme in your life. Like I have an extreme desire to compete. That's my extreme. I have other extreme desires. What is extreme in your life? What is that one itch? Won't fucking go away. What is that one person you can't stop thinking about? That intensity, you have it somewhere in your heart. Look for it. And then that becomes a portal. And then that's who you are. Because the thing you feel extremely strongly about is who you are. Or who you're really not. If it's a disgust reaction. Or who you really don't want to be. But जहाँ पे वो temperature rise करना चालू करे ना, pay attention to that. That is your internal barometer telling you where your taste is.
And usually the way people approach extremeness is they temper it in public and apologize, right? Like, I'm so sorry. I was so competitive about this. Like, I remember went to a friend's place, we were playing Pictionary. And I became so competitive to the point of absolutely dominating the game.
Yeah.
Even if I had to unethically win at...
Hell yeah.
What?
That's good. Dominating, competing,
Because I unethically won at tip top. So you can choose which partners, right? You know what I mean? Like tip top karte in games, right?
Yeah.
So I sort of like did a thing which...
How to unethically win at life. Cohort starting in August.
It's okay, so ethics we can get into. We don't have to get into Plato, Aristotle, all of that. But
or ethics we can kick out of the way and speed
it's a secret rule, right? So he doesn't know that you can sort of go one step. Like tip top में basically होता क्या कि एक पैर के बाद एक पैर ऐसे से आता है. मैंने हल्का सा gap छोड़ दिया.
अच्छा.
Right? ताकि I have some advantage, right?
Okay.
And so
right.
He's like something's wrong.
Right.
So let's do it again.
Okay.
This time he closed his foot like this halfway,
right.
which is allowed.
Talking without talking.
Yeah, but then he thought I was cheating. So he did it too early.
Okay.
And I had the perfect opportunity to just get on.
Wow.
उसके पैर पे. वो करने के बाद I chose the best artist in my friend Sumit Roy. I chose him. I chose all the other people who were UI UX designers.
Okay.
Right. So my team was like great.
Yeah.
Their team was like okay.
Okay.
And then each Pictionary word they said you can set it up to easy, medium, or hard, right? They didn't exactly specify how many times or what, so we just would sometimes go to hard and then change the settings to show that it's medium.
Yeah.
You can call it cheating, but when it's games, right?
It's game
when
time.
It's clearly like fair play is made for fools, right? Fair play is for sports teams
who lose. It's a participation trophy.
Fair play is for places where there are umpires, right?
Exactly.
If the idea is to win.
Yeah. That's extremely well put. Fair play is if you have a referee.
Yeah.
Life does not have referees, my friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just did that and I at the end I found myself, because I was so violently competitive that I was jumping up and down and stopping this vector in my team was telling all the answers and we won like smashingly.
Yeah.
And I went to the terrace and I said, I'm so sorry, I just get too competitive. And I don't like that. Because that's a very strong part of me. And like you mentioned, you're competitive, right?
Yeah.
But we do that in our lives all the time. Where we have these burning desires.
Yeah.
And because of being, to fit in or to be well balanced or well rounded or well put or to acquire the graces of society, we often tame that which is wild in us.
Exactly. And we are so disagreeable. And even we become apologetic sometimes. Right? So the temptation for people who are more agreeable, who like to get along and who care for how they're appearing and the rest of the jazz, the temptation is overwhelming. But then you feel lost. Like, I feel like the only people who don't feel lost in life are people who have leaned into their extremes. And so the choice seems very stark and clear. Either lean into your extreme or experience feeling lost. There is no third option.
That's so crazy. What about, hey bro, work, life, balance, all that jazz?
Well, I think human beings are meant for something better than a good-looking schedule. I think no one actually enjoys looking at their perfectly ticked schedule. I don't think there is depth or profundity or fire in that. I think we are meant for highs, and we are meant for losing ourselves in these highs. We are meant for finding ourselves in the lows, and that's fun. That's fun at such a deep level that I don't have to explain it to anyone. Like people have experienced ecstasy and terrible heartbreak and depression, and true life, true living looks like that. The scheduling is an attempt to hide from it, but you can run from who you are, but you can't hide.
Damn. Tell me more about why people like Jordan Peterson follow you. What have you done in your life which is warranted to follow from the internet's favorite daddy?
Yeah, well, internet's favorite daddy. My dad and Jordan Peterson have the exact same birthday.
Damn.
So that's funny. But yeah, intellectual daddy Jordan Peterson, his birthday was yesterday, 12th June. Belated happy birthday, professor.
And uncle.
And uncle. Hi, Michaela. Jordan Peterson followed me after I made this one tweet. The spiritually ugly find beauty intolerable. So there is this beautiful fountain in Rome 300, 400 years ago. And these environmental activists poured gasoline and black oil in that fountain.
I've been to that fountain.
You've been to that fountain.
Yes.
It's beautiful, right? And they destroyed beauty for no reason, right? Which is interesting. Like, it's terrible and they should be in jail and the rest of it. But it's interesting because it's the most beautiful spot. It's one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. Beauty is so hard to create. You've created all these podcasting studios. You know the importance of the minute detail, right? You know how that one little thing can add to something or subtract from it. Beauty is impossibly hard to create. Some cultures, some people, some architects, some groups of people manage to create it. That is our most precious heritage. I went to Sun Temple in Modhera on my last birthday. And I like going to new temples on my birthdays, because I'm mind-boggled by the architectural complexity and the grand ambition of the people who built these places. And the Sun Temple took my breath away. I was like silent for 2 hours. Like I couldn't fathom people 1,000 years ago working with their bare hands and moving stone, putting it on their, skull and then walking miles to place it at the right spot and carving and engraving and making it all beautiful, the little things for no reason. And imagine someone coming to the Sun Temple and just pouring black oil on it. I think that's unacceptable. I think these people are spiritually ugly from inside. And so I tweeted about it, and Jordan Peterson followed me after that. He retweeted it. And I think the part which he maybe liked was that he believes in spiritual ugliness. We have a problem with beauty standards and, pretty at all sizes and beauty is subjective and fine, not really, but let's not get into it.
No. Stay with the tension.
Yeah, I think the tension is that beauty is not subjective. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows kind of what their ranking is, 1 out of 10,
Yeah.
And you can deny it to be polite, but it is what it is. But physical beauty is important and objective, but spiritual beauty is even more important.
Yeah.
And for me, spiritual beauty is that desire for the good, desire for the truth, desire for beauty. Like some people are happy getting together for a kitty party, lying to each other relentlessly for 2 hours, and they have a good time, right? But for people who are honest, that would kill them. Like that would bother them and they wouldn't be able to sit there. Like they would be physically uncomfortable, where these lies are being conveniently traded. That person is spiritually beautiful. Yeah. Right? And the liars are spiritually ugly. And if your reaction to something beautiful is not, what the fuck? how can I contribute to something half as beautiful with my time and energy, then you're spiritually ugly. You know, like universe has nothing to offer but beauty, love, truth, and goodness. So if one of these four things is not getting a positive reaction out of you, and in reverse, it's getting a negative reaction out of you, that's spiritual ugliness. And you know, Peterson has touched on these themes in his lectures.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get part of my vocabulary from him. You know, he's been so influential.
Yeah.
For people
He's
our
been very
age.
influential. I think
Yeah.
I only knew the outlines of self-help movements
Yeah.
and morning routines and changing your life, but I did not know discipline or responsibility. Like responsibility as a word
Yeah.
was not a part of our vocabulary before 2016.
Yeah.
I really mean that.
Right.
Responsibility was a bad word.
Yeah.
And then each of the rules,
Yeah.
right, changed the lives of men across the world.
Yeah.
You know, someone as sharp and as wise as he is gave us something more than basic level, you know, like become a player, fuck all the girls. That's fine.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Still believe in it.
Sure. Hell yeah.
But then also, you know,
Not
what
all
virtues,
of them, just the pretty ones.
Yeah.
Of course.
What virtues will live through time? What do you stand for? The importance of family and friends and responsibilities, not as chores,
Yeah.
but as your duties toward yourself and to your life.
Yeah.
And then in some of the songs that Akira the Don has edited
Yeah.
for him,
Good stuff.
is like beauty highlights what's ugly. And that when he said that, it hit me. It's like, how can you identify what is ugly? Because you
Right.
know beauty.
Because you know.
Otherwise, you would, if you lived in a junkyard all your life, you would just shy away from beauty because you can't bear looking at it, because it shows you how insignificant and small you are.
Yeah.
And we used to have this room painted all white.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I used to own lots of posters that I would buy from these websites that were, the designs were made by people in a generic fashion.
Okay.
So I was cultivating my tastes.
Uh-huh.
When I heard those words, I realized over time my posters had changed.
Yeah.
They had become more custom.
Yeah.
And they had moved to pieces of art.
Yeah.
Then they had become more aesthetic.
Yeah.
Then they had meanings to them. Then they were not just a jumble of things on the wall.
Yeah.
And then I painted them black finally. And it's like okay, because I'm waiting for a different transition.
For the beauty to arrive, but you've
Yes.
created the space.
Yes.
That's what a blank wall represents, right? Space
Yeah.
for beauty to arrive.
It was a white wall with a bunch of
Yeah.
competing posters.
Mm.
It's a significant part because
Yeah.
I put them up, tore them down, put new ones up, tore
Yeah.
them down, and then I realized, how am I moving toward beauty?
Yeah.
By realizing that this no longer serves me,
Yeah.
I move to the next thing. And that's the thing. People think, oh, well, how do I cultivate a sense of beauty? You stumble into it, as you said.
Stumble into it.
You keep stumbling into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it finds you, you find it, you know, something just catches your attention, you have a sudden desire to go to a certain place, a certain person mentions a certain artist. By the way, talking about your blank walls, you know, there's this great new artist in Delhi, and he has this zoomed into pictures of sperm. And I think it'll look great here.
Thank you, man. Thank you for your callback humor.
Yeah.
Should totally get you to open mics here.
All right. Cool.
So you have all these threads that you write, obviously. How much time does it typically take to skim through a book, parse through a book,
Yeah.
to arrive at the insight in the thread?
There is no good answer because the variation is wild. You know, I'm very often tweeting about books I've read when I was 15 for the first
So
time.
sorry,
and
let me stop
yeah.
you there just for a sec.
Yeah.
Obviously, you work with, may I say it on camera? Who you work with?
No.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Great, he works for the government of a different country.
Right.
So we can't say no. But there's obviously note-taking systems and idea banks that people
Yes.
build, right?
Yes.
You read books as a 15-year-old. Are you
Yeah.
going to a Kindle copy, exporting highlights? Are
I
you
don't
going
like
to Google
Kindle. Yeah.
that's what I'm asking you.
I like physical copies, man. I just think the feeling of a physical copy is unbeatable. I've tried Kindles. There's something weird about them. There's something missing. And even the speed, I honestly feel like if I read a book and I highlight it and I fold the pages and I make notes on the borders, like Kindle isn't giving me that. You know, Kindle is giving me the highlights, but it's not as speedy as how I can flip. And you know, sometimes you develop an eye for, I found this idea in the first 1/3 of the book. I found that idea in the latter half of the book, and this ability to just flip across pages. I think I'm a physical books appreciator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been struggling with that lately because
Yeah.
Kindle allows me to ship my insights very quickly, but I do sort of miss that. I do miss the physical book. It's a very weird place to exist, because the physical book allows your eyes to scan it faster.
Yeah.
Right? As a consequence of seeing the entire page in smaller print.
Yeah.
But even in the Kindle, you can, I don't know.
And let me tell you something spiritual about books versus Kindle. The human brain is wired to take certain things seriously and engage with them more deeply, and not take certain things seriously. Right? So now my question is, why would the human brain almost engage with a physical book more? The pages remain what they are. A Kindle feels like a shifty fellow. He's something else right now, something else the next moment. There is this weird...
you should just put the mic slightly closer to your face.
Yeah. This is good?
Solid.
All right. Yeah, so there's this weird feeling to screens, like we all use them, we all need them, but screens are like shifty, there is no permanence to them. And a book, it sits there, same words, same pages, or the same lines. And the human brain feels it easier to trust that thought process, that idea, if it arrives to you in that format. And the format, matters very much. And I think for all the convenience and for all the ease that screens come with, they come with these costs, which are never discussed. Right? Yeah.
What is an idea that is gripping you right now in your life? Like, what is an idea that you are currently in the hole of, that you can't seem to let go of?
An idea that I cannot seem to let go of, an idea that cannot seem to let go of me. I think it's weird how the lack of unity in life is kind of weird. Like,
currently, you yourself, Jash.
Yeah, Josh. Well, yeah, so... this idea that meaning will somehow be found as this unification of all your different interests. You're getting me,
Yes.
this idea that there is a consistency to who you are inside, and that consistency will manifest via some projects, some people, and some places. And I feel like consistency is really man-made, like it's really artificial, and it's imposed. And it's okay to impose it. Like, we impose beauty on the world by creating these temples and these paintings. And I feel like the world is like really random, and the reason that idea is gripping me is that it feels true. I think, okay, so I think a lot of people are in the submissive, sit back and wait for God to talk to you mode. What I mean by that is, and you should do that. You should be submissive. You should sit back and you should wait for God to talk to you. But so much of things which you will eventually find meaningful in life will be built by your active effort. And I think I am a creative person. Sometimes I tend to lean back and wait for inspiration to come to me. But it's as much up to me to go up to inspiration, who is a pretty woman sitting at a bar, and strike up a conversation and get her to give me the number, like, you know what I mean? Like, the passive feeling is sometimes going to pretend to be inspiration and pretend to be, I'm just taking my time with it. But in some form, it's not how reality works. And in some form, you have given yourself permission to not act. And I'm trying to figure out these places in my life where I have given myself permission to not act because of some reason. It's too late. I can't do the fifth thing.
Or it's because you feel like some specific situation must be arrived at for the wheels of that part of your life to start turning again.
Right. Right. I'm not ready. I don't have the raw material. The only raw material is desire, And another idea, talking of desire, an idea that has gripped me recently is people talk about Stoicism, and we started the podcast with that, Buddhism and meditation, and, to karm kiye ja, to phal ki chinta mat kar, keep doing your job. Don't worry about the outcome, outcome independence, don't be attached. I think you should be attached. I think you should be massively attached. I think if you're not attached and I'm attached, I'm beating you. I think the attached person wins because he's invested. His heart is in it, his soul is in it, his mind is in it. And sure, it will hurt. Donald Trump was asked right before he won the 2016 election, how would you think about your campaign if you lose? Because you were a businessman, you beat all the Republicans, you became the primary nominee, now you're up against Hillary Clinton. So even if you lose, not bad for a first-time person to get that far. And he's like, failure is unacceptable. If I lose, all of this would have been a total waste of time and energy. And, his attitude was that I am outcome fucking attached. I am outcome dependent. My mood depends on the outcome. right? So I'm going to be more ferocious than the guy whose mood isn't dependent on the outcome. The Zen guy is getting beat. The Zen guy doesn't have a chance against some motivated animal. So I think desire is your fuel, be attached. For desire comes from the Latin root word decidum, which means from the stars. Desire is a gift from the gods above. It's a gift of what direction to go in. And that goes against the current trend of chill bano, zen bano, meditate karo, stoicism. All right, then see you on the battlefield, my friend.
I think what you say makes sense, but there is also figuring out who you are on the inside.
Sure.
You could have a desire for peace or
Sure.
doing less, and that is equally fine.
Sure.
You obviously are a very competitive guy.
Yeah.
As
And I
established.
seem to like people and like hang out with people who have a desire for peace. And so it's like opposites attract. And there are so many ways of being authentic, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that while that is true, I also find that people who seem to achieve a sort of internal peace by not competing blindly have a lot to teach. Yeah, at the same time, there's a lot to be learned from people who are jumpy and restless to get to where they want to go, and they can't wait for the world, and they don't take permission, and they just stab. Literally take their knife. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
They literally take their knife and stab reality.
Hell yeah.
And kill it.
Yeah.
And form a new one.
From a new one. Rearrange the heart, place it, next to the dick. Who cares? which is probably the case for most men anyway. So.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I just don't know what to say.
I'm glad to have dumbfounded the great Vinamre.
Intellectual बातें तो ठीक है, लेकिन तू ऐसी बातें करता है सोचता हूँ मैं क्या बोलूँ. But you had in the list of things you mentioned, you said you have a specific list of recommendations for young men and women.
Yeah.
A great clickbaited topic, supposed to get maximum views, and a desire of many young men to be recommended by another young man or old man.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird how young men just want recommendations. ये क्यों होता है? Brother, आप कुछ recommend कर दो मेरी जिंदगी बदलने के लिए. Peterson जी, आप कुछ कर दो, आप कुछ कर दो.
क्या करूँ?
It's great, you know. But because you obviously deal in old books, you read a lot.
Yeah. No, I deal in old books. I hide drugs inside old books and then I deal.
पुराने ज़माने का antique dealer है, नशों का, probably has a shop in Casablanca, and goes by some other name and calls himself half Indian, half French.
Right.
To fit in.
Right.
But no, beyond the social profile, seriously.
Yeah.
We could definitely go with one of these Karan Johar questions for.
Sure.
In terms of book recommendations, 5 or 6 books for maybe men.
Okay. No, I love the question. Let me give people 3 recommendations because I think people get overwhelmed, with recommendations. I will give you a book to help understand who you are. Then I'll give you a book to help understand who people are in general. And then maybe if I'm feeling generous, I'll give you a book to help understand women. Okay. So the first book, a book which will help men understand men, is The Book of Skulls. The Book of Skulls. Very vintage book, 1969 probably. No one knows about it. The story is fantastic. It's the journey of these 4 men who have heard about some immortality cult. And it's these college roommates. And the immortality cult has a very simple condition. Come as a group of 4 people. 1 person will have to be killed, 1 person will have to commit suicide, and the lives that they sacrifice will be transferred over to the 2 remaining ones who will live forever.
And there are 4?
There are 4 people. The beautiful thing about this book is how it creates this ecosystem in which 4 corners of masculinity are represented. So there is the nerd, there is the jock who has had the backing of his family. The way the book puts it is 8 generations of blue chip stocks behind him. Right, and so there are these people, khandani power, khandani paisa, and then there is this jock who is self-made, and the very first words he says in the book is, "I would rather drive than be driven." In this entire journey, this guy is the driver, and they're like, "Give us the car." He's like, "No, you cannot drive as fast. You cannot drive as carefully while driving as fast. No, I would rather be drive than be driven." So that's a aspect of masculinity, control, and the 4th guy I'll leave people to discover that for themselves. So it's a fascinating book, man. It helped me categorize men I knew in my life. These Briggs Myers and the Ocean, Jordan Peterson's Understand Yourself and astrology are all ways to figure out human beings by categorizing them in interesting ways and useful ways. And this book gave me the most interesting and useful categorization of men I've ever discovered. So the Book of Skulls.
So I'm getting it, 100% getting it.
Yeah, that was a very lengthy sell.
No, but it's a good sell because sometimes what people do is just say a line about it. It's not as captivating, bro.
Yeah.
You have to be, give a little spoiler.
Yeah.
Show what, makes your hair rise, and you'll be surprised it makes everyone else's hair rise.
Yeah. And I think you need to give people a reason why the recommendation, you know. And the second book, To Understand People, or Games People Play. It's a classic psychology book. It's really good. It's about how we get stuck inside scripts which are familiar even when they are not useful and we keep using them. So some people have the, I'm such a loser script in their mind. And any situation you put them in, they will figure out a way to create circumstances where that story is true. But it doesn't have to be true. It's just that the script, they're so familiar with it. It's so cozy. It's so relaxing. They know what it is. They know that room. And they want to return to it again and again and again. It's a game they are playing. It's a game they're familiar with. But the game is, they are a loser. But familiarity is so tempting that they stick to it. And so that book allowed me to see the games I was playing. Because when you meet someone, the most important question is, what game are they playing? Because if the game in their mind is, I'm such a victim, they'll figure out a way to make you the oppressor. Right? So it's really important to know the games people are playing. And that's the book, Games People Play. And to understand women...
Are you feeling generous now?
Do some work on your own, boys.
No, but do you have a book on that as well?
There are many books in that. I mean, I don't know.
Actually,
private message.
Guys, it's called Hi, What's Up? My name is... Hi, what's up? My name is...
I'm Old Books Guy on Twitter. Yeah. And then
go on.
I would like to recommend a book to women, actually.
Yeah.
Now the hot waters. The book is called Sexual Personae.
Yeah.
The book is by this, French academic called Camille Paglia. Sexual Personae. The book is about what is masculine and what is feminine. Because I believe those two things exist. They are separate energies and we've gotten them confused. And that book really helped me unpack that and understand women, understand what matters to women. So it's funny, my IG handle is Desi Mansplainer. And the reason that is my handle is that it's very fun to say it to someone for the first time. Like if I've met someone and, you're exchanging IGs at a bar or something at a party and they're like, what's your IG? Let's meet again. And then I'm like, take out your IG. And then she takes it out and, she's waiting expectantly. I'm like, Desi Mansplainer. And I see her brain flip and her brain goes, who is this person? And I enjoyed getting that reaction out of people. But, women don't like mansplaining. And I finally figured out a few weeks ago why that is. Everyone likes a good story. Everyone loves to hear about physics from the astrophysicist. So it's not explaining something to someone which is the problem. What is the problem? The word explain has the word plain in it. Explain. When we say ki movie kaisa tha, bahut plain tha. Plain means boring, vanilla. Plain means obvious, normal. Right? And women don't like it when you reduce the complexity of the world to the plain. When we talk about the environment and the landscape and geography, plain are the flat land, and the mountains and the rivers and the valleys. But plain is the flat land. So when you're mansplaining, you're making something complex into something simple and boring. So as long as you can talk about a subject while retaining its depth and granularity and mystery, as long as you can retain mystery in something, mansplain as much as you won't be in trouble. So that book helped me arrive at that insight. This idea that women are interested in depth and mystery and the unknown, and there is this one idea in the book that a woman is subject to a cycle she cannot control. The period cycle. That is genuinely beyond her capacity to control.
I thought you meant Big Boss. Big Boss.
Watching Big Boss. Another cycle women can't seem to control. Right? And so the idea is that in the female mind, there is that capacity for making peace with things you can't control.
Yeah, 100%. Men have a hard time for that. That's why
men have a hard time for that.
Men are asked often to surrender to their feminine side and sort of like go and have fun and let them... Sometimes men can't even let their night go where it wants to go. It's like,
right.
No, bro. 9 p.m. this, 10 p.m. this.
Right, desire for control.
And then they're like, bro, I love getting fucked in the ass. You know, it's like, no wonder, you know, that part will come out, you know?
That part will come out, you know? And that was, that really, you know, there was nothing.
I have too many friends like that. That's why I'm laughing, sorry.
Yeah. That part will come out. So this idea that, you know, the female psyche can make, so this, it's such a crazy idea because we believe that men and women, basically we wear different clothes. We won't wear frocks. They won't wear, you know, probably denim jackets. But if you want to, you can. And that's all the difference there is. That's so not true. That's so not true. The feminine heart beats different. The feminine mind thinks different. And you are going to live in a world where you will deal with females and you'll deal with men. And you should understand people for who they are, you know, because that's the way to treat them the best if you understand who they are. And that's the way to have a good relationship with anyone. And that book is about the differences between men and women, which is not a very, you know, in subject. It's not a very fashionable thing. It's fashionable to say that it's all a spectrum and it's, you know, you can be this. What's that?
That's Andrew Tate music.
That's the Andrew Tate music. Well, then we got to wrap up this podcast and tune into the real one.
Yeah. No, I saw you were sitting like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I have noticed. I have done it. I've seen a lot of friends do it. Of all the things that man says, it's the non-verbal gesture that makes it through.
It's the non-verbal gesture. And have you seen that one clip where he explains the logic behind this?
No, कुछ ना कुछ तो बोल ही देगा अच्छा सा.
कुछ ना कुछ तो वो बोल ही देता है, पर मुझे तो sense बना था वो इस बात का. So he said that your body is electricity. Okay, so when you're sitting with your 2 feet on the ground and you're sitting with like this, you know, somehow, you know, you have this on your lap maybe. What you're doing is you're closing the energy circuit. Now no energy is leaking out.
As opposed to this.
As opposed to that, because I feel like वो circuit नहीं बना. उसमें circuit, the thumb is very important.
Guys, I studied commerce, so obviously can't relate to circuits.
Circuit is just how electricity flows. You know, that's it. The science guys lied to you.
Sometimes you play dumb host to reveal information. Watch out for more in my course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it does.
It does something, man. Because what I can do when I sit like this is I can push my fingers into each other. So I can generate force even while I sit here and look at you and talk to you. So there's something in my body which is generating force.
It's a little bit more alive, I will say that.
It's more alive.
I feel a little bit more alive.
You feel more alive. Boys, this is how you feel more alive. Yeah.
Very interesting. So that's all the recommendations?
Yes, those are the recommendations. You know, and everyone should read all 3 books. But Book of Skulls for men and Games People Play for everyone and Sexual Personae for everyone, but especially for women.
Solid. And maybe like 2 old books that are...
Sure.
Because there's lots of editions, and one thing that people often struggle with recommendations is they believe they must read books cover to cover. That means they must read books the entire way through, which is not true at all. Yeah. The reason I read from the Kindle is because if I find a book boring, I'll just never read it again. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. Because not every person you will randomly meet on the street will be interesting or worth talking to. So books are like that. Sometimes they're just random strangers. You're supposed to get it over with, you know. And what old books? So my favorite writer is Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. I would tell people to read The Joyous Science, or The Joyous Wisdom. You know, the publications differ.
And it's not a very famous work of his.
Like it's not a very famous work of his.
People know Thus Spake Zarathustra,
yeah,
Genealogy of Morals, and a few others. Beyond Good and Evil, but like...
Beyond Good and Evil, Those are catchier titles. And the other translation for this book is The Gay Science. But it has nothing to do with being gay. Gay meaning happy, joyous. And that book really contains all his important work in a very interesting, condensed fashion. And I love that book. If you look at my copy, like probably every page is underlined and folded from the top and the bottom. So the density of that book will blow people's minds away. That book has like 10 books inside it, you know, effectively speaking. And I really love this. I would recommend people to read The Story of Philosophy. The Story of Philosophy, because Nietzsche is what I need. Nietzsche is maybe who I relate to, but I want people to find out who they relate to. So The Story of Philosophy is this one text in which you can get introductions to all philosophers from Plato to even some, you know, Asian ones, George Santayana, Aristotle, Saint Augustine, Nietzsche. Love Augustine.
Yeah, I think, it's because sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
I was walking on a beautiful street in my college neighborhood was called Bay State Road. It's one of the most expensive districts to live there because it would also had all the old rich of Boston living there.
Right.
And it also had parts of my college there.
Yeah.
It was lined with sidewalks and these beautiful sports cars and these old money cars. And then in the fall, you would have all the, autumn leaves on the ground.
Yeah.
And then each brownstone building was a hexagon.
Yeah.
Shaped like a hexagon with the part of it coming out on the street.
Hexagon buildings.
And I remember some of those places also had like, they were religious buildings. Like, I forget which ones. एक कोई church था पता नहीं, like some there's a bunch of sects first of all, right? But it had a quote from Augustine or maybe Aquinas. I'm forgetting which one.
Right. Some guy.
But it said the heart is restless until it rests in you, and I saw like a parallel to the sort of Sufi love poetry, which I had never seen in Christianity, Christian philosophy or theological philosophy. So I was very interested.
But it's so cool how you went to a place and then a certain line on engraved on a certain wall.
It was just a quote that they had framed on the door.
And that hit you, So reading a book like The Story of Philosophy is a way to discover 100 such lines and then find out what hits you. Because it has to hit you. If it's coming to you half asleep and uninteresting, then you just won't find it useful to engage with. So it has to hit you like lightning, otherwise it has no value. So read that book, The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant, and it will give you an intro to all these, big time thinkers. And it's the book I read when I was like 13, 14. And Nietzsche immediately was my guy. Like he was thinking in ways, I think. And that was very useful to find out. So people should find who their Nietzsche is.
When I read Dostoevsky in college, I felt like that was who my guy was. Very dark, very brooding, very pissed off and full of hate. Like a tortured, intelligent person. Nietzsche was also like that, but Nietzsche also had a way of being very clear with his ideas and being very being a strong proponent.
Yes.
I think Dostoevsky was not a strong proponent of anything. But just the way he portrayed reality was beautiful. So many guys, man. So many fucking guys. I remember like when I took my existentialism course in college, I got depressed. That's the idea, right? Because you've read all these superficial level philosophies and you're like, sort of living your life. But then you get hit in the head with these heavy ideas and it sort of takes a toll on you, and it's a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage. It's interesting how an idea can take a toll on you, right? Almost as if it had a physical reaction on you, like just a bunch of words on a piece of paper, and somehow it's getting into your heart and your soul. And maybe it tells us that we are built of ideas. Only like recognizes like. Only water mixes with water. So if an idea is mixing so deeply with you, what are you built of?
Jealousy, anger, hatred, greed, corruption.
Hell yeah. Well,
no, I think I play to my base side more because it allows me to be.
I do too. I think that's because everything else seems so abstract and so unreal. Like this is real.
Yeah. Like I think if you carefully take out the lighter side of you, the side of you that moves toward the light. It has more weight. And when you take out your base side. You already upset a lot of people. So the ones that stay, they feel like you're speaking to their base side, to your base side. By articulating it, you decrease their pain. By saying this is okay to feel, this is okay to exhibit. But if you always preach the light all the time, you can get the world to like you. But you won't influence their hearts and minds.
Liking is cheap. Liking is transient. Liking is here, now gone. You want. There is this show, the Young Pope, and it's the Young Pope. Great show, great fucking show, unexpected show. It's about this one young man who is made the Pope because people think A, he will be progressive, and B, he will be controllable. Turns out he's ultra conservative and unfucking controllable.
Crazy.
And Jude Law plays the young Pope, and there is this great scene where one of his priests tell him that we are losing followers.
the church is losing followers, and he looks at this priest, and the Pope goes, I don't want followers, I want fanatics. The church wants fanatics. And this, the idea is you want people who feel deeply and who like you a lot, who love you. That's strength. When shit goes down one rainy night, as shit tends to, that's the group you can call. Someone you liked and networked with, like that person is useless when it counts.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aim for fanaticism, not for followership. You'll go far. Great. You can join our cult. It's called the Grey Sofa Gang. But bro.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you hear this a lot. You're a super smart guy. It was a joy to speak with you.
It was a joy to fucking speak with you. For sure.
I think you have brilliant ideas, and the way you package them is admirable. And the way you've built an audience outside of this country through on the basis of ideas alone is remarkable.
Appreciate it.
And I wish you all the best. People can follow you on the Old Books Guy.
Old Books Guy. Twitter.
And if there's some feminists watching it, his Instagram is Desi Mansplainer.
Desi Mansplainer. Yeah, hit me up.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the invite. It was joy to speak to you. Love the clarity with which you think. Love the clarity with which you speak. And what you've built, I think before you and maybe a bunch of other people, there was no podcasting scene in India. There was no space where people can have conversations like this. And you've really created this ecosystem, and I feel like you are like a founding father of the ecosystem in some important way. So great job, man. Really love everything you do.
I think we're just hacks trying to look like military generals. And one day we become them.
Yeah, one day we'll be military generals trying to look like hacks. So we'll go through this phase too.
No, man. People can follow you on these accounts. Check out his threads. Writes a ton of stuff. Very awesome stuff. If you want to change your media diet and get crazy good ideas, test it through time into your mind without even reading a book, because the investment is very low. It's as simple as just pressing the follow button. Do that. I've been very helped by that, because there are days when I'm just watching memes, love memes,
Love memes.
And then I see his tweets.
I love memes. Memes have two of me. Me. I love it.
I see his account, I see other accounts, and all of a sudden I remember what is the intellectual fodder that my mind was missing, and I sort of get back to it. And then I feel instantly within an hour of that or 2 weeks of non-stop doing it, my vocabulary becomes sharper. I'm able to dance with ideas. So it's very important to have that. And I think, having his account as a part of your diet is a way to, acquire taste, be a literary gentleman or woman. And yeah, I'm running out of eloquent things to say.
I am changing my Twitter bio right now. You just perfectly captured the value that people can get from the account.
What is it called?
My Twitter bio. Yeah. Right now, it's like the Old Books Guy. Follow for new insights from old books, playing on contrast. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to change it with what you said.
What did I say?
Good stuff.
Clip based thing. Okay, bro. It was a pleasure for you.
It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks.